This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Hey, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason, what do you have on tap for us tonight?
Well, today's another one of those one volume podcasts. But wow, it's like what a volume it is. It is a second volume of Transformers, the second volume of the Energon Universe series, written by Daniel Warren Johnson and now illustrated by Jorge Corona. And just to recap for a second, John's like, yeah, we really like that first volume of Transformers that Daniel Warren Johnson did by himself, didn't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't say it radically reinvented the mythos we know about the Transformers, Autobots and Decepticons, like Prime leading the Autobots, and hey, it's like, well, Megatron is like somewhere else, and now Starscream has to step up and lead the Decepticons as well as he can. But I think that there are a lot of cool details that really elevated the story, along with Daniel Warren Johnson's like really like amazingly kinetic art that added a lot of energy to the series. So I was I was very much looking forward to the second volume. Like, you too, John?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so with the second volume, like I said, now as I mentioned, Johnson is now stepping back from from illustrating the series, and now we've got a new artist, Jorge Corona, who, well, on one hand, it's like, he I think he does a good job of maintaining like stylistic consistency with with Johnson's style, because Johnson's got like a very very kinetic, very fluid style that really communicated the action and the physicality of the of the violence and all brutality of the Transformers, sorry, the Autobots versus Decepticons actions, as well as like the humans like in their own like issues with these robots fighting against each other on their own place, on their own planet. And with Corona, it's like he manages like definitely a commensurate level of detail with Johnson, but I don't think he quite nails the same level of physicality that that the original artist had. Just when you see Trent, like Optimus Prime barrel into like Sky Skywarp, I mean, like that you really felt that on the page. It's like in in this volume, like I don't think that he's like Corona's like maintains like that that same level of physical intensity, but he does do a good job of communicating like, the level of detail that's present in like these it's like in this fight between different, not very sure about factions, and also especially when he's like called on to deliver big, it's like big epic shots, such to like the raising of the Nemesis, or Cybertron coming into Earth orbit, or just like showing us just what things are like on Cybertron itself. I think that Corona is a really he's a solid pick, even if I still kind of feel that I want I really would want Johnson just still be illustrating all of this, but at the same time, I know he still wants to go off and do his own create her own stuff, such as like what he's doing right now with The Moon is Chasing Us, that he's writing and co-illustrating with Riley Rossmo. Um, John, you do you have any? I mean, sorry, I spewed a whole lot of words about the art itself. Do you have any feelings about how this volume looked, or anything that stood out to you?
I'll give you a couple of themes. How's that?
Okay.
So this volume is called Transport to Oblivion. Okay, so
Yes.
Transport to Oblivion, so is a callback to the original Transformers cartoon. Um, so what happened is they had um the 3 episodes that made essentially the pilot of the cartoon.
Oh.
So it told the story of how the Transformers came to Earth and how they got their alternate forms, and yeah, and all this stuff, and so it was kind of like the first 3 episodes were it was almost self-contained in a way, because one of the things that they mentioned was like that the governments of the Earth. This is how different those first 3 episodes were compared to what happened afterwards. Governments of Earth, after the Decepticons were quote unquote defeated,
Hmm.
um, they went on to they said they said, you know, we're going to give you all the fuel you need to go back to Cybertron. Um, however, that makes it almost like a closed loop, right? But hey,
Yeah.
then they're like, oh, we'll make some more episodes. The very next episode was called Transport to Oblivion. And so that's where they got the name of this. So it's literally the 4th episode, if you will, of the television cartoon. Now, what's interesting about that is that it deals with a space bridge. So
Mm.
so this is that's what, and when I read this, I was like, okay, I get it. Now, there is something else that they're also kind of blending in here, that another concept that's being pulled from the cartoon as well. So there was so that's kind of where it is. And so in that episode, which by the way, which is like literally the first episode of Transformers I ever saw in my life. Um, I actually missed those 3, the ones I just talked about. But when I saw this one, I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And uh and at that time, I think it was only like you can only watch it on a weekly basis. I think later on they did like daily, and they moved it into like more of a syndication style, like where they had like more episodes and whatnot for season 2. But in season 1, they didn't even have titles. But this was one of the titles. Anyway, going back to this. They had another 3-parter, and the other 3-parter was called The Ultimate Doom, and it involved a plot to create a giant space bridge that pulled the planet Cybertron into essentially into the orbit of Earth. Now, does that sound familiar to you?
It sure
Oh,
does. It's like, well,
yeah,
I'm willing to bet that things played out a bit differently there than they
yeah.
do in this volume.
So in that one, and yeah, so let me just give you I'll just give you the quick rundown for that one. So the reason why Megatron decided to do this was he wanted to harvest all of the energy that would have caused that bringing another planet close to Earth, like into Earth's orbit would have done. So there was a whole lot of like earthquakes and tidal waves, and all
Mm,
this activity was happening, in which the Decepticons exploited to gather energy. And since Cybertron was right there, they would just fly it straight over. They was like, hey, don't need to worry about it. We just give it straight to them. That's how we're going to re-energize our planet. Hence another theme that you see in this, right?
hmm.
But it's played way differently in this. So it is not the same thing, but it is very much borrowed from that concept. So that's what I would have to say in terms of the overall plot of what we're looking at here. It's kind of
Yeah,
borrowed.
indeed. Especially since like Megatron, like he's even mentioned even less here than he was in the first volume because like they had to kind of it's like where is Megatron, but this time it's like it's established like hey like Starscream is in command, but then that's even like like changed even initially when Soundwave basically like challenges like Starscream like after like Starscream was basically like, kind of screwed up everything when he was like leader of the Decepticons in the first volume, and now Soundwave has basically said like no, it's like you have no plan about what we're doing here, so I'm going to go ahead and challenge you for leadership,
Yes.
and things go badly for Starscream,
Yeah.
real badly,
Yeah.
and
I did find that really interesting, by the way, just to interrupt you right there.
oh no, go ahead.
That is another concept that was created out of the cartoon as well. Is the challenge of leadership that you're talking about right there. That
Hmm.
was brought out in the first season of the Transformers cartoon. So yeah. And this time it was Megatron challenging Optimus Prime. The only thing that Optimus Prime didn't know is that Megatron had absorbed all the power, all of the special abilities of his other Decepticons in order to defeat Optimus Prime. So he essentially cheated. So anyway, but yeah, that when
Yeah, but that's because
you
he's a bad guy, and the bad. It's like this is what bad guys do. It's like,
yep,
and well, we're doing thing a bit. Things are a bit more nuanced in this series, I will say,
yep,
which I think not necessarily in a bad way, honestly.
yep. But it is interesting that they quoted that code, so very
Hmm.
interesting. But
Yeah, it's like it's like I like the fact that Soundwave, who is like more or less best known for the fact that he's the boombox guy. He's got the cassette Decepticons, and he speaks in that funny reverb voice. But now he's given his shot at the brass ring here, and in the second volume he gets results. It's like his plan now is to basically raise the Nemesis, the ship that brought the Decepticons to Earth. It's like, and bring and establish that star bridge between your Earth and Cybertron after reestablishing contact with with Shockwave. But I do like the fact that that Soundwave is shown to have a plan here, and even as he's doing this, he wants to restore his it's like his own Casseticons. Is that what they're called?
that's what they're
Yeah,
referred to by
yeah, it's
other
like especially
people.
with Ravage, it's
Yeah.
like he says like I
Which,
want to
by
bring
the
these.
way, I've never heard that term before. So
Oh, okay, but he wants to bring his Casseticons back. It's like, and like I want to you respect the fact that he's got a plan. He wants to do right by the people under his control, but at the same time though he is completely ruthless because I like the bit where Thundercracker just looks at the humans that they on the on the aircraft
aircraft
carrier
carrier.
yeah, aircraft carrier that they take over. It's like, and he's just like, you're so pathetic. Like I don't even want to understand what it's like to be how you can just live in your own fleshy selves. Go away. And he just he's content to just let them go. But then Soundwave is like, if they go, then they're going to tell everyone about what we are. So there can be no survivors. So so yeah, it's Soundwave has his own like uh, like personal concerns that make him more than just be an outright villain, but the guy is still completely ruthless in terms of just wanting to see the Decepticons succeed here, and succeed he does, because not only does he establish the that space bridge between Earth and Cybertron, but he also brings in Shockwave as well, and we get a much more concrete picture of Shockwave here in this volume than we did in the first volume of Void Rivals, where he cameoed in here. Because I don't know, it's like I mean, like he was seeing Shockwave here. It's like, I mean, dude is just like the picture of an evil mad scientist, in the sense that like, hey, it's like I want to get know more about everything that fuels organic and mechanical life. And there may be torture involved, but yeah, it's like I'm definitely gonna find out more about this. So it was he like it was interesting to see him be portrayed as so completely unhinged that Soundwave basically says, no, we need to work with him because he's basically got all of Cybertron under his control right here. So that was definitely interesting to see, Shockwave having to rationalize, working with someone who should be a Decepticon comrade in arms and all.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's also Astro Train, which I guess he's someone who showed up a lot later than he does here. Am I correct?
Yeah, so Astro Train doesn't show up in the cartoon until season 2, with
Hmm.
zero explanation, by the way. Um I find some of his language interesting, to be honest with you.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, because in here he's kind of talking with Spike, by the way, which it should be mentioned here that the doctor says that he, because of the injuries that he received, that he's kind of paralyzed and in a wheelchair.
Yeah, back in volume 1.
So that was, yeah, and but that was I didn't really pick up on that. Like it would continue to be an issue for him. Um, so, which is actually another callback to a character that they had in the original cartoon. His name was Chip, and
Uh,
he was always in a wheelchair. So anyway, so there's that. However, um, Astro Train has interesting dialogue with Spike for a little bit. Almost makes you think like, um, first of all, Astro Train here is a bit of apparently he's in jail.
yeah. So out of control that Megatron had to lock him up on the
Yeah.
Nemesis.
Yeah. So it's but there apparently there's something else going on here. I'm just picking up little hints in his dialogue with he's definitely cold-blooded, and that's one thing about the Decepticons you can't argue is like they're definitely cold-blooded here.
Mhm.
At least, well, maybe Thundercracker had a little bit of a compassionate boning him when he's like, like you were mentioning earlier. But you know, uh I'm just trying to think of like the moment where, he's just kind of like talking about like other people's plans or something, and interestingly enough, I get the feeling that, you know, some of them are a bit, well, maybe even Astrotrain might be a bit like have his own little moral dilemmas, like he hates Megatron for some reason, which is kind of a new characterization in my opinion. At least from going from the G1 cartoon. I can't speak. Again, none of the stuff that I talk about, it references any of the IDW material. I don't really know it. So,
Mhm.
but you know, I got the impression that he had some sympathy in some ways for the human Spike, after he abducted him.
Well, he respected Spike for the fact that, when Astro Train showed up at Spike's hospital saying like, "Where is the human Spike?" And, Spike basically came out and said like, "Hey, like, if it'll
Yeah,
save everyone at this hospital, then, like, I'll go with you." And, like, and Astro Train respected him for that. I mean,
yeah,
he basically then went on to tell him that, "Yes, no, sorry, human Spike, you will be tortured by Shockwave." It's like,
yeah. He said, "I'm just looking at it now. It says, I won't lie to you, Spike with long hair. You will be tortured."
yeah.
So, um, interesting, way of describing it though. Um, and he says it earlier, just looking at the quote there, where he's like, he justifies this to Spike when he's talking about um like here's the solution to the plaguing of their planet, Cybertron. It must be surprising to you, seeing us stand in front of you in all of a metallic glory, but where we hail from is a shell of its former self. Our home is in need of sustenance, like
Mhm.
it's running out of energy or whatever. And and he says, such is the way for a weaker species. I feel for you, human, but it sounds like,
It's the
he's
same
like,
kind of sympathy that, Thundercracker has for humanity.
it's weird to see these two, like, even like, yeah, you get them. They're like cold-blooded killers, but they also have like there's some of them that have these other thoughts, so
But it's like they kind of feel like, like, hey, we are so superior to these people here that, like taking like beating them up and taking their lunch money almost feels just kind of like, beneath us.
yeah. And it's a strange thing. It's a strange thing,
Mm.
right? So I can't speak to it, but it'd be interesting if they started pulling out some of the moral dilemmas that these two have. Now, mind you, moral dilemmas are not new, um at least from different universes that the Transformers have had. Especially with I believe the Armada universe,
Hmm.
which is a cartoon, right? It's more the more modern cartoons where Starscream has had, and I think in the IDW he's also had some other roles as well. But at least in that cartoon, he winds up becoming kind of like good. So, like, so I actually welcome a little bit of the ambiguity that some of the Decepticons might have. And by the way, I would this has also been seen going the flip direction as well. I'm just going to say that out loud because there have been Autobots who have betrayed their badge, right? So
Mhm.
I would like to see some more of that. I haven't seen that yet in this, but again, I digress for most of this, but I think it's interesting to see like him being expressive like that, or Thundercracker being expressive the way he was, you mentioned. So
Yeah, well, it's like it's. I mean, hey, this kind of like like ambiguity is welcome, like with like Thundercracker, and also Skywarp, because like after he was like forcibly integrated into Teletran One, and in the first volume, it's like we find out that he's like like trolling the Autobots' efforts to try and like utilize Teletran's like restorative efforts here, but then it's like he when they see that he's they that that Alito, oh sorry, it's RC it's like saves him from like Carly's like RPG launch. It's like that's that's kind of welcome as well. It's like and this kind of like like depict like depiction of the characters like are just not it's like like locked into like they're like oh it's like like Autobots good, Decepticons bad type type thinking here. It's like that's welcome. It's like and also it's like there's some interesting stuff being done with like the Autobots here, especially with like with Optimus Prime, like after Spike's dad sacrificed himself to help restore his Matrix in the first volume. Well, we find out that um Optimus may have inherited more than just like the energy from Spike's dad. Here it's like now he's actually having like memories of the just like having like a kid of his own. It's like and all, and that's kind of interesting to observe here. It's like and also just the fact that like Prime is just like willing to like like press the advantage they have against the Autobots. Well, he also has to deal with the fact that like well it's like they're like that they're dealing with like 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 a superior force once they get the like sky space bridge back online. It's like and also like later in the volume when like when Lita One comes back in the picture, but just what he used to be in terms of just like the fighter against like the Decepticons back in the day. It's like it's like I don't know, it's like it's interesting, especially with like the when we're showing a bit of like what things were like for the Autobots on like on Cybertron as well, like with like those like the current day stuff with Alita One just leading a basically suicide mission in order to rescue Ultra Magnus, who holy crap, man, like he's in a bad way here. It's like I mean basically like tortured to his down to his bolts by like by Shockwave. It's like and then having to be rescued by Alita One for this. It's like that's rough, especially when they have to like when having to retreat from the battle against the Nemesis, like and leave Cliffjumper and Jazz at the mercy of Shockwave in order to save themselves. I mean it's rough seeing that like the good guys having to retreat like that, even it's for like the greater good of like coming back to fight another day. It's like and there's some interesting stuff they posit here, such as it's like the bond that develops between RC and it's like and Carly in terms of like them becoming like Carly becoming like RC's iron apprentice. It's like and also Ultra Magnus, especially just him saying like I want to fight, I want to like become like contribute to this resistance, and then well not being able to do that. It's like that's kind of rough. I mean, what did you think about seeing? I mean, like I thought that seeing Ultra Magnus freak out in terms of just like having to fight against like Shockwave again after he'd been tortured for like centuries by him. That honestly felt like felt believable, like even as like it left the Autobots in like in a bad way. And I really kind of want to see like how Johnson like follows up on this, because that seems like Magnus's like response seemed like it's bad. Let's have the Allies in a lurch after they like helped restore him. But at the same time though, that felt very human in terms of just like the guy's response in terms of like Magnus basically has like robot PTSD. Like I get that, man. So what'd you think, John?
Well, I think uh I think it's interesting, honestly. Um I don't know what the thing I don't know. Ultra Magnus, you can't even recognize him, but I kind of suspected that might be who he was, and I was right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just yeah, he's kind of he's he's got some PTSD or something. That's all I'd have to say about that.
I mean, would you say this is kind of at odds with how he's been portrayed, like in other Transformers media? Because like I think I was like he was like voiced by Robert Stack in the Transformers movie, right? So
Yeah.
he's basically like kind of like a take no crap, like Autobot leader, right? Normally,
Yeah, he generally does. Yeah. And he definitely, like, in the Transformers movie, which where he really made his debut. He's really he's portrayed that way. Um but yeah, it's it's interesting to see how they portrayed him here. Um and maybe there's a whole backstory we're not going to get. Don't know yet. So,
yeah. This definitely feels like something they're going to come back to, like it's like at a later point. Absolutely, because like I said, it's just it's like it's just you don't expect like your heroes to like freak out and just like abandon their friends. It's like the like in a big moment, especially like after you've just been given a big double page splash of them showing up to like, hey, here's a cavalry man. It's like, and then having to like run off because he just can't do it. So I really want to see what where they're going with this, but it was also just interesting to see them like how the it's like how the fight goes on from there, and also how you know it's like how Prime basically has to like embrace his old warrior self. It's and I don't know if I'm jumping over stuff here, but just seeing what happened to Shockwave, like at the end there, it's like it's interesting to see like how he how Prime apparently just like channeled like his newfound human empathy like from Spike's dad into just murdering um like Shockwave when he had the chance there, and also his immediate just recriminations about no, this isn't how I am now. It's like I regret this, but Alita One also just acknowledging no, hell, Prime, glad to have you back now. So and that that goes kind of that goes kind of badly for everyone involved, I think.
yep.
But yeah, but also it's like I guess we need to back up a bit and talk about the guy who saved Spike from Astro Train, and that's Beachcomber, right?
Yeah, our favorite hippie.
Well, it's like, yeah, he's definitely a hippie, but also I think he's being positioned more in this series as being an explicit like transformer pacifist. It's like
Yep.
he's not actually like on one side or the other here. He's fallen in love with like Earth and what it represents, even though it's like I don't know how he managed to get back on Earth without and like by hitching a ride from the Apollo program without actually like um like ruining the math that allowed our people to get back to Earth that way. So but still, it's like it's like it's interesting to see how the series creates like a parallel history for him about how he just wound up on the moon for maybe a couple hundred years, then got found his way back to Earth, and then decided, no, I'm not going to bring anyone back because that'll just reignite the war and that'll just ruin this great planet that I've grown attached to. And it's like yeah, I kind of I kind of like this guy, and like in his like his pacifist views, because he he correctly guessed that if the that if things around Teltron 1 were like restarted, then the battle would just start anew. It's like like and like everyone would just start killing each other again. So I so so like even if he's like not on anyone's side specifically, it's like I kind of respect his views, and also I do appreciate the fact that hey, it's basically a Transformers like Silver Surfer type guy who can surf over anything, as we see in the climax of this volume. But I guess John, it's like, is this how he normally is, like in in Transformers continuity?
Oh yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, he doesn't like Decepticons. He doesn't like fighting either.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's a pacifist. He likes the aminals. He does.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess it's gonna kind of be interesting to see what they do with him. It's like going forward, because he winds up he winds up saving Prime at the end after everything in Cybertron goes sideways, because instead of just allowing the like all the energy that Shockwave sucked from Earth to fuel the war effort on Cybertron, Prime decides, no, I'm going to go and try and restore it all to Earth, which it's like I really kind of wonder like how Elita 1 is going to respond to this, because it's like Prime just, I mean, he didn't actually stab her in the back, but from her perspective, I can see how she just like felt the knife go in. It's like in his actions at the end there. It's like, and also Prime kind of like even though he tried to return this energy stolen to Earth, it was done in a very catastrophic way, which involves like a gigantic chunk of Cybertron like falling into Earth's ocean. And well, we didn't actually get to see a lot of like how the you know revelation that hey, like there are these like giant robots like fighting a war on Earth. It's like like that was revealed at the end of like in the course of volume 1 being played out here. But the end of volume 2 here basically implies that it's like, well, the series is going to need to have like the wider governments of Earth acknowledge that hey, there is a giant proxy war being fought on our planet, be it between giant robots who are like who really like who kind of maybe one side kind of sort of cares about us, and the other one is just dedicated to our destruction. So it's like it seems like you can't really like ignore like like how the wider human governments are going to function here. I mean, they kind of do ignore that here, and I think like Johnson just about gets away with it, just with how fast the story like progresses in this volume. But like for going forward, it's like I just think that we're going to need to see just more like acknowledgement of just how the Earth governments acknowledge this. Like it's just going like the story needs to get bigger. It's like especially with like how things like ended here, because I mean I did like this volume overall. It's like because but at the same time though, it's like it kind of like like needs to like it promises like more like bigger and better stuff like going forward, and I kind of want to see how that's going to be playing out in volume 3, even though I know that the structure for volume 3 is going to be a bit weird, because the next 2 issues are basically going to be following up on a Starscream story, and then the next 4 after that will be addressing the ongoing story afterwards, like picking up on how things left off at the end of this volume. So I mean, I know this because I've been reading the solicitations, for volumes going forward. So and also those two issues about Starscream handled by Jason Howard, who I think is going to be a great choice after seeing his work on Cemetery Beach with Warren Ellis. Like, and also, but Corona is coming back for the for the next 4 issues after that, and then for volume 4, well, that's gonna be Johnson's last volume as writer. So we'll see how things go from there. But overall, it's like, I mean, I I can't say I like volume 2 as much as I did volume 1, but I think that volume 2, it's like, did still have like a lot of good details, a lot of cool story moments. It's like, and just like a lot of overall style that really made me invested in following what's gonna happen next, like with the Transformers here. It's like, and I'm sorry, I'm just stating that out with my opinion right there. But I mean, John, it's like, how did you feel overall about Volume 2?
Yeah, I think it's good. Um and um I I'd have to say that I think that it I'd like to see how the next volume pans out for sure. And see where they're taking some of these threads. So I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt, for the most part. I think that we're starting to build our heroes roster up a little bit more. And then everything, there are some things that are kind of I'm just seeing how they're gonna be, like how they're gonna work these out. Like Jetfire or Skyfire. I forget
Oh,
what
that's
it's called.
right. So I mean, Jetfire. They just mentioned yourself with Jetfire that they resurrected his transformed mode, but they couldn't actually get him to transform anymore because
His robot
that's
mode, yeah.
yeah, it's like, but then but then they didn't actually follow up on what happened to him after he was shot down. When Nemesis awoke.
Yep.
So
Yeah, yeah,
so yeah, it's like, I mean, like, we like this, but like there are some parts that hey, please follow up on this because we want to know what happens to these characters, especially the guy who was essentially a Valkyrie.
yeah. I think I'd be pulling my hair out if I had to do this volume by volume, but yeah, sure. I mean, issue by issue, I should say,
Yeah.
not volume by volume, but I do like. I think I'm good with the pace of the volume. So, but yeah, that's pretty much. I'm eager to kind of check this out and see how it's going. So, where they're gonna develop these, still a lot of good promise. Um, do like the cold-bloodedness of the Decepticons, and then the ambiguity as we mentioned before. I'd like to see some more of that on the like maybe on the Autobot side as well, but we'll see how that runs. So,
Yeah.
um,
I
but
think
yeah,
it's got momentum going with it after these 2 volumes.
absolutely. Yep. So that's pretty much what I think. I don't think that I think that it's going, you know. So good stuff.
Yeah, it's like we like what we're like the stuff we've been reading from the Energon universe, and hey, maybe one of these days, yeah, like we'll get around to maybe talking about the GI Joe side of things. Who knows?
Mhm. Yep, exactly. All right. You know what you're going to be talking about next time?
Well, it's like if it arrives in time, I'm probably going to be talking about the final volume of Innocent, the story of a particular like executioner during the French Revolution and the lead up to it. But that assumes it's going to arrive in time for me to talk about it. So if it doesn't, then who knows, everyone.
Yep. All right. We'll catch you next time on Comic Picks with a Click.
Later, everyone.